The first time my new roommate slept on my sofa, she kept one hand closed around the spare key I had given her and the other tucked beneath her cheek. At 2 in the morning, I found her awake beneath the gray blanket, staring toward the dark hallway as though the locked bedroom door at the other end belonged to a different life. "You can take my bed," I said. "I'm not doing that." "Then at least stop pretending you're comfortable." She looked down at the key in her palm. "Comfort isn't the problem." We had known each other for 9 days. Until that evening, I believed she had lost her key by accident. Before sunrise, I would discover that someone had taken it from her bag, entered her room, and left behind a photograph that should not have existed. Before I tell you how one night on my sofa changed a practical roommate arrangement into something neither of us had planned, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy emotional stories about quiet trust and unexpected love. And leave a comment telling me whether you could continue living with someone after learning they had hidden a serious problem from you. Because what Maya finally told me forced both of us to decide what safety, privacy, and home really meant. My name is Daniel Cross. I was 37 years old, lived in Denver, Colorado, and worked as a building inspector for the city. Most people assumed the job involved walking through construction sites with a clipboard and ruining contractors' mornings. That description was not entirely unfair. I examined old apartments, new developments, damaged foundations, illegal renovations, blocked exits, failing electrical systems, and all the expensive mistakes people hoped nobody would notice until after they sold the property. I trusted walls more than I trusted explanations. A wall could be painted, covered, or disguised, but if enough pressure had been placed on it, the crack eventually returned. My divorce had taught me that people worked differently. My former wife, Lauren, had spent nearly a year planning to move to New York for a museum position, while telling me she was only exploring options. By the time she admitted she wanted to leave Denver, she had accepted the job, signed a lease, and told her parents I would probably follow. I did not. We ended the marriage without shouting, betrayal, or a dramatic final scene. Somehow that made it harder. There was no single moment I could blame, only hundreds of conversations where both of us had chosen comfort over honesty until the decisions became larger than the relationship. 2 years later, I still lived in the red brick duplex we had purchased together. I kept the upstairs apartment and rented the smaller room after my younger brother informed me that financial practicality and emotional avoidance could exist in the same decision. I listed the room online on a Sunday evening. Maya Bennett replied before breakfast Monday. Her message was precise. 32, freelance editor, quiet schedule, no pets, 6-month lease preferred, references available. She arrived for the viewing wearing black jeans, a cream sweater, and an expression that suggested she had already evaluated every exit before ringing the bell. Her dark hair was pinned loosely at the back of her neck. She carried a leather shoulder bag against her side with both hands. "The listing says private lock," she said before asking about the kitchen. "The bedroom door has a separate deadbolt. Does anyone else have a key?" "Me, because I own the apartment. My brother has an emergency key to the front door, not the bedroom." "Would you enter without permission?" "Only if water, smoke, or structural collapse suggested the room had stopped being private." She studied my face. "You answer very specifically. People become less disappointed when rules are clear." "That sounds experienced." "Divorced." "Same." The word surprised me. She looked young enough that I had assumed relationships, not marriage. But I knew better than to confuse appearance with history. Maya inspected the room, opened the closet, tested the window latch, and asked whether packages were left inside or on the porch. She did not ask about nightlife, parking, or whether I minded guests until the end. "I don't expect visitors," she said. "Neither do I." That could sound reassuring or depressing. "It is mostly logistical." She smiled for the first time. The smile changed her entire face, making her look less guarded and more dangerous to my peace. Her references were excellent. She edited long-form nonfiction for a small publishing company and took independent projects from journalists and academics. Her income varied, but her savings were sufficient. She offered 3 months' rent in advance. I declined the extra payment and offered the room. She signed the lease the following afternoon and moved in on Friday with 8 boxes, 2 suitcases, a desk lamp, and a large framed print wrapped in brown paper. We established rules at the kitchen table. Shared groceries required labels. Quiet hours after 10. No overnight guests without warning. Cleaning alternated weekly. Bedrooms remained private. If one of us expected to be gone overnight, a message would prevent unnecessary concern. Maya added, "Do not lend anyone my key. I would never lend another person's key. Even your brother? Especially my brother. He once returned my truck with a canoe tied to the roof and no explanation." Was the canoe his? It was not. She wrote the rule anyway. I found that excessive. 9 days later, it became the center of everything. Living with Maya was easy at first because she occupied space carefully. She cleaned the kitchen immediately after cooking, used headphones while editing, and never left personal items in common rooms except one blue mug she washed every night and returned to the same shelf. She worked late, usually at the desk in her room, but sometimes carried her laptop to the dining table when the afternoon light was better. I learned she hated cinnamon, drank tea with no sugar, and edited by reading difficult paragraphs aloud in a whisper. She learned I woke at 5:30, cooked when anxious, and checked door locks twice before bed, even though I pretended the second check was casual. We became friendly through practical accidents. On her third night, the radiator in her room began knocking loudly. I stood outside her door with tools and waited until she invited me inside. Her boxes remained sealed against one wall. The framed print leaned face inward beside the dresser. "You haven't unpacked," I said. I unpacked clothing. "The room still looks temporary. It is a 6-month lease. Temporary does not require living from cardboard, ma'am. You own 6 identical gray shirts. Uniformity reduces morning decisions, while cardboard reduces emotional attachment." The reply sounded like a joke until I noticed she was not smiling. I fixed the radiator. Before leaving, I saw a brass key on a thin silver chain hanging from the desk lamp. It was smaller than the bedroom key and older, with worn teeth and a small round head. "Another security system?" I asked. Maya touched it quickly. "It belonged to my grandmother. What does it open?" "Nothing anymore." She removed it from the lamp and placed it inside the desk drawer. I did not ask again. The next evening, she cooked enough soup for 6 people. "Do you understand quantity?" I asked. "Not emotionally. That is not a cooking measurement. You can have some." We ate at the kitchen island. Maya asked about my work, and I told her about a landlord who had sealed an emergency staircase because tenants used it to smoke. "People ignore risk when preventing it becomes inconvenient," she said, "usually until someone gets hurt. And then everyone claims the warning was unclear." The bitterness in her voice did not fit the conversation. "You edit safety manuals?" I asked. "Sometimes legal reports. That sounds less enjoyable than books. Books contain legal problems, too." She changed the subject by asking about Lauren. I gave the efficient version of my divorce. Different priorities, different cities, mutual decision. Maya listened, then said, "That answer is what people give when they have no intention of being understood." "You asked a roommate question." "Fair. What happened in your marriage?" Her expression closed immediately. "Different priorities." I laughed once. You used my answer. It was efficient. We agreed not to pursue either subject. That should have preserved distance. Instead, the avoidance created a private curiosity between us. I began noticing when Maya paused beside my door before continuing to her room. She began leaving tea beside my inspection reports when I worked late. On Sunday morning, she joined me at the neighborhood market and argued with a vendor about whether tomatoes belonged in every sandwich. On Monday evening, she fell asleep at the dining table with red editing marks covering a manuscript and her cheek resting on one hand. I placed a blanket over her shoulders without waking her. The next morning, she left a note beside the coffee maker. "Thank you for not moving my work." Permission mattered to her. I understood the concept. I did not yet understand the reason. The key disappeared on the 9th day. Maya called me at 6:20 while I was inspecting a renovated apartment building across town. "I have a strange question," she said. "Do you have the emergency copy of my bedroom key?" "In the locked box in my office." "Are you sure?" "Yes. Could your brother have taken it?" "He does not know the box code." "Has anyone been inside today?" "No. Why?" There was a pause long enough to become an answer. I can't find my key." "Front door or bedroom?" "Bedroom. I used the code to enter the apartment." "Where are you?" In the hallway outside my room. Check your bag. I did. Coat pockets? Yes. Car? I took the train. I'll be home in 40 minutes. You don't need to leave work. The spare key is in my locked office. Tell me the code. No. Her voice sharpened. Why? Because that box holds inspection documents, my passport, and financial records. You trust me to live in your home but not open a box? Trust does not require unlimited access. Silence followed. You're right, she said quietly. Take your time. The correction surprised me. I finished the inspection faster than I should have and drove home through evening traffic. Maya sat on the floor outside her bedroom with her laptop bag beside her. She had removed everything from it and arranged the contents in careful rows. Computer, notebook, wallet, charger, pens, tissues, 2 paperbacks, and a small black case. Any luck? I asked. The key has not developed guilt and returned. When did you last use it? This morning, I locked the room before leaving. Did you open the bag outside? At a cafe, then at the library. Could it have fallen there? I called both places. I retrieved the spare from the office box. Maya stood behind me while I unlocked her bedroom. The deadbolt turned normally. Nothing appeared disturbed. Check whether anything is missing, I said. She remained at the threshold. You can wait outside. I own the room. I rent it. I mean the building. And the lease gives me privacy. Her tone was not hostile. It was careful. You're right. Tell me if you need help. I went to the kitchen and reheated leftovers. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Maya did not emerge. I knocked once. Are you okay? Yes. That answer sounded expensive. I'm checking things. Was anything taken? I don't know. Do you want me inside? Another pause. Not yet. I respected the answer until 7:45 when she opened the door carrying a small trash bag. Her face was pale. I found the key, she said. Where? Inside the room. Then you didn't lose it. Apparently I locked it inside. How? The lock catches automatically when the door closes. You said you used it this morning. I must have remembered incorrectly. The explanation was possible. It was also false. Why is the key in your hand? I asked. Maya looked down. The key she held was the spare I had given her, not the original. The other one is on the desk. Show me. Daniel, you said you found it. I did. Then show me. Her expression hardened. You are not an investigator. No, I inspect structures after people tell me nothing is wrong. My room is not your building. Then stop giving me answers designed to end questions instead of answering them. Maya tightened her grip on the trash bag. I'm tired. What is in the bag? Garbage. From a room you barely unpacked? Yes. She carried it toward the front door. I stepped aside rather than block her. Do you want me to come? I asked. To the dumpster? You look frightened. I'm embarrassed because I lost a key and made you leave work. That is not what I'm seeing. Then stop inspecting me. She left. I heard the stairwell door close, then opened again 2 minutes later. Maya returned without the bag. I'm going to sleep, she said. Good night. Good night. She walked to her room, inserted the spare key, and turned it. The lock did not move. She tried again. What happened? I asked. It stuck. I examined the lock. The key entered but would not rotate fully. Something inside the cylinder had shifted. Did it work earlier? You opened it. With the original emergency copy. This is the emergency copy. I looked at the key in her hand. It was close, but the cut pattern was different. That isn't the key I gave you. Maya stared at it. Of course it is. No. I retrieved the spare from my pocket. I had forgotten to hand it to her after opening the room. The key she held had been inside her bedroom. It looked newer and had a different brand stamped near the base. Someone had replaced her missing key with a copy that did not fit. I unlocked the door again. This time, Maya asked me to enter with her. We searched without touching more than necessary. Nothing valuable appeared missing. Her laptop had been with her all day. Cash remained inside the desk. Jewelry sat in a small case. The boxes were still sealed. Then I noticed the framed print beside the dresser had been turned around. The brown wrapping paper had been removed. It was not a print. It was a large photograph of Maya standing beside an older woman outside a courthouse. Both held folders against their chests. Someone had placed a smaller photograph against the glass. In it, Maya was leaving our building 3 days earlier. The image had been taken from across the street. Was that there this morning? I asked. No. Maya's breathing changed. Do not touch it. I wasn't going to. We need to call police. No. Someone entered your room. We don't know that. A photograph of you outside this building appeared inside a locked room. It could have been in the wrapping. Was it? I don't know. Maya. She covered her face with both hands. I need 5 minutes. Take them, then we call. You keep saying we. Because the person entered my property too. This is exactly what I wanted to avoid. Like, what? Making someone else responsible. Not information is not responsibility. It becomes responsibility once fear enters the room. I looked at the damaged lock. You cannot sleep here tonight. The cylinder needs replacing, and police may want the room preserved. I'll get a hotel. At 8:30 with someone apparently tracking you? I am not staying in your room. I didn't suggest it. You were going to. The sofa exists. Maya looked toward the living room. This is humiliating. It is furniture. I have lived here 9 days and already brought police into your apartment. We have not called them yet because you keep delaying. She lowered her hands. I know who may have done this. Then tell me. My former husband. The words changed the shape of every unanswered question. What is his name? Evan Shaw. Why would he steal your key? To prove he could enter. Has he done this before? Not exactly. That phrase usually hides a longer answer. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb anything. Evan and I divorced 18 months ago. He worked as a political consultant. I edited investigative reports for a nonprofit that monitored campaign spending. We met through work. Was he abusive? He never hit me. That was not the question. She stared at the floor. He read my messages, tracked my location, and opened my mail. He called it transparency. If I changed a password, he said, secrecy proved I was disloyal. When I tried to leave, he contacted my clients and told them I was emotionally unstable. Did you obtain a protective order? Temporary. It expired after 6 months because he never made a direct threat. Did he enter your old home? Once, he still had a copied key after saying he returned every copy. He moved objects around and left our wedding photograph on my pillow. Did police document it? Yes, no fingerprints they could use, no camera footage, and he denied being there. Why didn't you tell me before moving in? Because I had not seen him in 7 months. I changed my phone number and left the neighborhood. I believed it was over. But you inspected every lock. Fear becomes habit after the danger stops. Has he contacted you recently? An email 3 weeks ago. What did it say? I hope Denver is treating you honestly. He knew you were still here. He always knew the city. Did he know this address? No. Who did? My employer, references, the moving company, and the lease website. Did you report the email? There was nothing threatening in it. Context makes it threatening. Maya looked at me. You sound angry. I am. At me? At both of you for different reasons. She flinched. That's fair. No, it isn't fair. He created the danger. You hid information because you were afraid housing would disappear. Those are not equal. But I still removed your choice. Yes. We sat with the truth rather than making it cleaner. Finally, Maya said, call the police. The officers arrived within 20 minutes. They photographed the substituted key, the image, and the lock. One recognized Evan's name from the previous report after checking the database. The officer asked whether Maya had seen him nearby. She said no. I mentioned the cafe and library. The officer requested security footage from both. A locksmith came after 11 and replaced the bedroom cylinder. The officers advised Maya not to remain alone and suggested staying elsewhere until the identity of the intruder was confirmed. I can go to my sister's, she said. Where does she live? The officer asked. Colorado Springs. Does your former husband know? Yes. Then avoid predictable locations tonight. Maya looked toward me. I can sleep on the sofa. The officer asked whether I agreed. Yes. Do you feel safe with Mr. Cross? Maya answered without hesitation. Yes. The speed of her answer affected me more than it should have. After everyone left, I gave her fresh sheets, a blanket, and the correct new key. She changed in the bathroom and returned wearing loose black pants and one of my old university sweatshirts because her pajamas remained inside the room. Police had asked her not to disturb until morning. You could wear your own sweater, Ma, I said. This one was on the laundry chair. That is not communal clothing. You said I could borrow something. I did not expect you to choose a sweatshirt older than our lease. It feels safe. She lay on the sofa and placed the key on the table. At midnight, I went to my room. At 2, I returned for water and found her awake. The key closed inside her hand. You can take my bed, Mo, I said. I'm not doing that. Then at least stop pretending you're comfortable, Numb. She looked toward the hallway. Comfort isn't the problem. What is? The door locked. I had the key. He still got inside. You don't know it was Evan. It was. How? The photograph. What about it? The woman standing beside me is Julia Mercer, my former supervisor. She died last year. I'm sorry. Evan hated her. She helped me leave him. He used to say she had turned me against my marriage. Maya opened her hand and looked at the key. He knew displaying that picture would tell me he remembered exactly who helped me. Why was the large photograph wrapped? I couldn't decide whether seeing Julia made me stronger or reminded me why she had to help. Did Evan hurt her? No, cancer did. She smiled sadly. Julia used to say privacy is not dishonesty. It is the room where a person gets to hear her own thoughts. That sounds useful. Evan said privacy was where betrayal grew. And you? I began believing both people depending on who was in front of me. I sat in the chair opposite the sofa. Why did you trust me tonight? I didn't at first. You allowed me into the room. Because you asked. That cannot be the whole reason. Maya looked at the ceiling. You were angry that I hid the truth, but you did not block the door, take my phone, or demand access to my messages. You made room for my choice even while telling me I had made yours impossible. That is a low standard. Not after Evan. Do not turn me into a good man because another man behaved badly. Her eyes moved back to mine. I'm not. Then what am I? Someone I have noticed too much in 9 days. The answer changed the air between us. What have you noticed? You check the locks twice, but pretend the second time is about the thermostat. You cook eggs when worried and pasta when lonely. You speak about Lauren as though she made every decision, but when you think no one is watching, you read old messages and blame yourself. You saw my phone? The screen reflected in the kitchen window. That is uncomfortably observant. It's my job. Editing? Finding the sentence people meant before they made it safer. She shifted beneath the blanket. I noticed that you knock on my open door, that you ask whether I want help before touching my boxes. That you never ask why I'm leaving when I go out, only whether I expect to be back. And tonight, when I lied, you became angry because you believed I should have had the right to ask and you should have had the right to answer. That is an elegant description of a bad evening. I edit. Silence settled between us. I notice you too, I said. That seems inevitable when sharing a kitchen. You listen for the front lock when I come home. You leave your mug in the same place because predictability calms you. You unpack one box every time something happens that makes the apartment feel less temporary. Maya looked toward the sealed boxes in the dark hallway. I unpacked 2 after you fixed the radiator. I know. How? The recycling bin contained paper. Inspector. Occupational problem. She smiled faintly. What else? You borrow my sweatshirt when frightened. It was available. You chose it. Maybe. I wanted to reach across the space between us. I did not. You should sleep. Will you stay until I do? The request was quiet and direct. Yes. I remained in the chair while her breathing slowed. At 3:15, the key fell from her open hand onto the blanket. I moved it to the table without touching her skin. By morning, the police had obtained footage from the cafe. A man matching Evan's description sat 2 tables behind Maya. When she left for the restroom, he approached her chair, removed something from the outer pocket of her bag, and returned before she came back. The library footage showed him following her inside. Another camera near our building captured a dark sedan entering the alley 40 minutes before Maya returned home. None of the images showed him entering the apartment, but the stolen key and substituted copy established enough probable cause for investigators to request a search warrant and question him. He wanted me to know he had access, Maya said after the detective called. She sat at the kitchen table wearing my sweatshirt, both hands around tea. Why replace the key with one that didn't work? I asked. So I would doubt my memory first. Would you? I did. For several minutes, I believed I had somehow collected the wrong key, locked myself out, and invented the feeling that something changed. That is what he trained you to do. She looked toward her room. The locksmith says the new lock is secure. Police release the room, you can move back into it. I know. But the sofa feels safer. The sofa does not have a door. Exactly. I understood and disliked the understanding. Do you want breakfast? I asked. Advice first. That is unusual. Should I move out? I considered the easy answer. Telling her to stay would sound kind. It would also ignore the fact that she had concealed a material risk from me. Telling her to leave would protect the apartment, but confirm every fear that honesty cost her housing. I don't know yet, I said. Pain crossed her face. Thank you for not lying. What do you want? To stay. The answer came quickly. Why? Because leaving every place Evan discovers teaches my body that he controls geography. That is a strong reason. Not the only one. What is the other? Maya looked down at the sweatshirt sleeve covering part of her hand. I like living with you. We have lived together 9 days. It has been a very efficient 9 days. That sounds like evidence of crisis bonding. Possibly. Do you want to stay because I sat with you last night? Partly. That is not enough for a housing decision. No. She took a breath. I want to stay because before the key disappeared, I already looked forward to hearing you in the kitchen. I bought the tea you like even though you didn't ask. I nearly unpacked the photograph because I wanted you to see the woman who helped me become myself again. And I chose the sofa because it was near your room. My heartbeat changed. Maya, I am not asking for a relationship. Good. That sounded fast. Because neither of us can know whether attraction created by fear will survive an ordinary Tuesday. I agree. But it exists. Yes, I leaned back. Here is what I need if you stay. Full disclosure about any contact from Evan that could affect the property. Police updates involving the address. No moving evidence or making safety decisions for both of us alone. Agreed. I will not ask for passwords, access to your messages, or details unrelated to my safety. Agreed. We install common area cameras only after deciding placement together. Yes. And the bedroom stays yours. I do not enter without permission even if I worry unless there is a clear emergency. Maya's eyes filled. That matters. What do you need? No surprise guests until Evan is detained or the order is renewed. Agreed. If you become angry, tell me before you become quiet. I become quiet to avoid saying something damaging. Your silence feels like judgment when I don't know the reason. Then I'll name it. And no treating me like a case. I inspect buildings. You inspect everything. Fair. We called my aunt and explained enough for her to consent to new security. We signed an amendment to the lease documenting the measures and the right of either person to terminate without penalty if the situation became unsafe. Maya read every line. Romantic, she said. This is not romantic. The phrase mutual consent regarding surveillance equipment has emotional depth. You need better books. I edit better books. That afternoon, we unpacked her boxes together because she asked for help. The first contained kitchenware, the second contained books. The third held letters from Julia, photographs of Maya's family, and court documents from the divorce. I did not read anything, she noticed. You're not curious? Extremely. Then why aren't you looking? Because curiosity is not permission. Maya turned away under the excuse of lifting another box, but I saw her wipe her cheek. Evan was arrested that evening after police found Maya's original key, photographs of our building, and copies of her lease application inside his car. His attorney argued the evidence had innocent explanations and requested immediate release. A judge granted a renewed protective order and imposed electronic monitoring while the case proceeded. Relief should have made everything simple. Instead, Maya moved back into her bedroom and began avoiding the living room. She stopped wearing my sweatshirt, returned it folded, and started closing her door while working. I told myself distance was healthy after an intense night. 4 days later, healthy distance felt suspiciously like loss. We still shared meals, but conversation remained practical. Police update, locksmith invoice, grocery list. One evening, I found Maya examining apartment listings on her laptop. "You said you wanted to stay," I said. She closed the screen. "I do." "Then why are you searching?" "Because wanting something does not make it wise. Are you afraid Evan will return? He cannot legally approach." "That was not the question. I am afraid the arrangement changed." "Because of the sofa?" "Because I told you I was attracted to you. I said the feeling was mutual. And then we wrote a lease amendment. Would you have preferred a kiss?" "No." Her answer was correct and disappointing. "What are you afraid will happen?" I asked. "That living here will make every interaction ambiguous. If you make dinner, I'll wonder whether it is roommate kindness or romantic interest. If I close my door, you'll wonder whether I'm rejecting you. If I date someone else, you'll feel betrayed even though we never agreed to anything." "Are you dating someone else?" "No, hey, do you want to?" "Not now." "Then we are inventing future pain to avoid current honesty." "You sound like an editor." "I learned from one." Maya stood. "I need time." "How much?" "I don't know." "That answer frightens me." She looked surprised. "Why?" "Lauren used time to build decisions privately." When she finally spoke, nothing remained open. "I'm not Lauren." "I know, but my body hears the same language." Maya softened. "What would help?" "A date. Not tonight. Not because of what happened. One date next week, outside the apartment, after we have both had time to decide whether the idea still feels real. And if it goes badly, we return to the lease and behave like adults." "That sounds optimistic." "I inspect unsafe balconies for a living. Optimism is relative." She smiled. "Friday. Friday. But I keep looking at apartments until then." "Why?" "Because choosing you should not depend on needing the room." I wanted to argue. Instead, I understood. "Fair." Friday arrived slowly. Maya met me at a small restaurant downtown rather than riding together. She wore a dark green dress beneath her coat and carried a different bag, one with an interior key clip. "Security upgrade, I'm Nikki," I said. "Trauma-inspired fashion. You look beautiful." She stopped, apparently unprepared for directness. "Thank you. You look less like a building inspector." I removed the reflective vest. We spent the first half hour discussing everything except us. Work, food, books, my brother's stolen canoe story. Then Maya asked, "Do you miss Lauren?" "Sometimes." "That is not reassuring on a date." "You asked for honesty." "Continue." "I miss the years when we were good. I miss believing marriage made decisions shared automatically. I do not want her back." "Why did you stop reacting emotionally?" "Because every disagreement felt like evidence the marriage was failing. I became calm to prevent damage." Lauren interpreted calmness as not caring. Was she wrong? Not entirely. Calm became a way to avoid being known. And now? Now I am telling a woman I have known 2 weeks that I was terrified when she considered moving out. Maya looked down at the table. "That is emotional. Painfully. I was terrified too. Of leaving? Of staying. Why? Because I slept on your sofa for one night and woke feeling more at home than I had in 2 years." The admission sat between us. "That can be fear, I said. "I know. Or relief." I know. Or attraction. Daniel. Yes. Stop listing possibilities and tell me what you want. I took a breath. I want to date you. Slowly. I want you to keep your room, your privacy, and the ability to leave without financial punishment. I want us to discuss anything that affects the home before deciding. And I want to kiss you tonight if you still want that after dinner. Maya's eyes softened. That was very specific. People become less disappointed when rules are clear. Do you always quote yourself? Only during high-risk inspections. I want the same. Including the kiss? Especially the kiss. We walked outside after dinner. Snow had begun falling lightly over downtown. At her car, I asked permission anyway. Maya said yes. The kiss was gentle, brief, and entirely different from the intimacy of fear. She touched my coat near the collar, then stepped back before either of us could confuse a first choice with a permanent answer. Still want to live with me? I asked. Ask me after you stop labeling the refrigerator shelves. Never. Dating a roommate required more discipline than either of us expected. We created boundaries that sounded unromantic but protected the possibility of romance. Bedrooms remained private unless invited. Rent stayed unchanged. Either person could request a night without shared meals or conversation. Arguments about household matters did not automatically become relationship arguments. We failed often. When Maya worked late and closed her door 3 nights in a row, I assumed she regretted the relationship. Instead of asking, I became efficient and distant. She noticed by the second morning. You are angry, she said. I am giving you space. Your version of space involves placing my mail in perfectly aligned stacks. You have deadlines. I also have a boyfriend who has stopped touching me. The word boyfriend distracted me enough that I forgot the argument. Is that what I am? Do not become pleased while avoiding the point. Trying. She explained that the manuscript involved confidential testimony and required concentration. I admitted that a closed door still felt like a decision I had not been included in. Then ask whether it is about you, she said. Is it? No, and if it becomes about you, I will tell you. Another time, I invited my brother to dinner without warning. Maya arrived home, saw a man inside the apartment, and froze in the doorway. My brother immediately stepped back, but the damage was done. After he left, she said, You promised no surprise guests while the case continued. Evan is monitored. The promise did not expire because you felt safe. You're right. What changes? I notify you before anyone enters, family included. And if I say no, we meet elsewhere. The rule felt excessive for 5 minutes. Then I remembered how it felt to discover someone had entered her locked room. I apologized without explaining intention first. Trust returned through corrected behavior rather than the speed of forgiveness. Evan eventually pleaded guilty to stalking, unlawful entry, and violating the protective order. He received probation, mandatory treatment, electronic monitoring, and a permanent order prohibiting contact. Maya attended the sentencing but refused to make a public statement. I don't want the rest of my life narrated as a response to him, she told me afterward. What do you want it narrated as? Work, friendship, choices I make before fear makes them for me. She looked at my hand but did not take it. And you? Possibly. Possibly? You asked for a list, not a proposal. Good. We have dated 4 months. I understand calendars. We celebrated nothing that night. We ordered food, watched a terrible documentary about luxury bunkers, and fell asleep on opposite ends of the sofa. At 3 in the morning, I woke with Maya's head against my shoulder and the spare bedroom key on the coffee table. She no longer slept holding it. That felt more significant than any courtroom result. 6 months after moving in, Maya's lease approached its end. By then, we had become a real couple in every way except combining rooms. She still paid rent and kept her bedroom. I occasionally slept there when invited. She occasionally slept in mine. The sofa remained neutral territory after difficult days. We had not discussed renewal because both of us expected the other to begin. One evening, I found a printed lease on the kitchen table. You renewed without me? I asked. It's a draft. The rent is lower. I calculated half the utilities differently because we share groceries now. You cannot reduce your rent because we date. Why not? Because it creates financial dependence or reflects reality. What if we break up? Then we revise. What if you feel unable to leave because the arrangement is cheap? Maya closed the document. You think I'm staying for rent? No, meh. Then stop building an argument against something I did not say. She was right. I sat across from her. What do you want? A 1-year lease as my tenant? As the woman who lives here and wants legal clarity? Do you want to move into my room? Her shoulders tightened. Not yet. Disappointment showed on my face before I could hide it. That is the problem, she said. What? Every practical choice now becomes a measure of love. Separate rooms means hesitation. Full rent means distance. A lease means lack of commitment. I didn't say that. Your face did. You read faces professionally. I edit. Same danger. Maya stood. Maybe I should find another apartment. Old fear rose immediately. You use leaving whenever uncertainty appears. And you use permanence whenever fear appears. The argument stopped us both. There it was, the structure beneath the surface. She feared that staying would become surrender. I feared that space would become departure. Neither of us could solve the conflict by proving the other wrong. Sit, I said. That sounded like an order. Will you sit? Yes, we returned to the table. I don't want you moving into my room because a lease deadline pressures you, I said. I also don't want separate rooms forever because we are afraid to test a shared life. What do you suggest? Renew for 6 months at the same rent. During that time, we spend 3 nights a week in one room by deliberate choice, not convenience. We keep both rooms available. At the end, we decide whether to combine. Maya considered it. That sounds like a clinical trial. Controlled conditions. Romance with data. You like evidence. I like you. The words softened everything. I love you, I said. It was the first time. Maya became completely still. You chose a lease negotiation. Emotionally efficient. Do you mean it? Yes, not because you needed my sofa, not because I helped during the case. I love you because you ask what my silence means instead of inventing an answer. Because you correct me without humiliating me. Because you make temporary spaces feel worth unpacking. Tears filled her eyes. I love you too. Since when? The night you stayed in the chair. Crisis bonding. No, I was frightened, but you did not enjoy being needed. You asked what I wanted and stayed without making the moment a debt. She reached across the table. 6 months. 6 months. Same rent. Same rent. 3 nights a week is not mandatory. Mutual invitation. Good. We signed the lease and kissed beside the signature lines. It was not traditional romance, it was ours. The trial succeeded imperfectly. Shared sleep revealed that Maya stole blankets and I set alarms too early. Separate rooms remained useful during deadlines and arguments. We gradually stopped counting nights. One Sunday, she moved the framed photograph of Julia into my room without discussion, then caught herself. I should have asked. Do you want it here? Yes. Why? Because she helped me leave one life and you helped me understand that staying in another can still be freedom. Then it stays. You don't feel replaced by a dead woman? That would be an unusual insecurity. You have unusual spreadsheets. Inspection logs. 1 year later, we converted Maya's room into a shared office. The decision was hers. She carried the final box into my bedroom and placed the brass key from her grandmother on the dresser. What does it really open? I asked. Julia's old writing desk. My grandmother gave it to her when I started working at the nonprofit. Julia left the desk to me. Where is it? Storage. Why? I associated it with the period when Evan controlled everything. Do you want it here? Maya considered the question. Yes. We brought the desk home the following weekend. The brass key still worked. Inside one drawer, Maya found a letter from Julia she had never seen. She read it privately, then gave it to me. The letter said that leaving danger was only the first stage of recovery. The harder stage was learning that another person's presence did not automatically threaten independence. Maya folded it carefully. She always edited my excuses. she said. Professionally, aggressively, we placed the desk near the window. Maya began working there every morning. 2 years after The Lost Key, she launched an editing cooperative that helped investigative writers retain ownership of their work. I left city inspection and joined a nonprofit developing safer, affordable housing. Our incomes fluctuated. Our schedules worsened. Love became less cinematic and more demanding. We argued about dishes, travel, privacy, and whether my brother could store a canoe in the garage. The answer was no. When conflict triggered old habits, we named them. You are preparing to leave before asking whether there is room to stay, I would say. You are designing permanence before asking whether I want the floor plan, she would answer. The phrases did not solve everything, but they brought us back to the actual conversation. I proposed on the sofa 3 years after the night Maya first slept there. I had considered restaurants, mountain overlooks, and a restored theater she loved. Every location felt borrowed from someone else's idea of romance. The sofa was where she had asked me to remain and where I had learned that staying could respect choice. On a snowy December evening, I placed a small box beneath the gray blanket. Maya came home carrying takeout, dropped her keys into the bowl by the door, and sat beside me. She no longer checked the bedroom key separately because we had one shared room and no private lock between us, though both office drawers remained personal. You look suspicious, she said. I am sitting normally. You have inspection face. What does that look like? As though the building has lied. She reached for the blanket and found the box. Her expression changed. Daniel, before you react, the sofa has passed structural review. I'm serious. So am I. I took the box and knelt, though the narrow space made the movement awkward. At Maya Bennett, the first night you slept here, you held a key because you believed safety depended on keeping control of every entrance. I sat in that chair believing love meant remaining available without asking for anything. We were both partly right and dangerously incomplete. Tears filled her eyes. You practiced. For weeks. Continue. You taught me that privacy is not distance, uncertainty is not rejection, and a locked door can protect love when both people know who holds the key. I hope I taught you that staying can be a free choice, repeated without surrender. Will you marry me? Not because this apartment saved you, not because I protected you, and not because leaving became difficult, but because the home we built belongs equally to both of us? Maya looked at the ring, then at the key bowl near the door. I have conditions. Expected. On no surprise real estate purchases. Agreed. No telling contractors I am your wife before the ceremony to receive a discount. That happened once with a plumber. No. Agreed. And if either of us needs another room, emotionally or literally, we discuss it before assuming the marriage is failing. Agreed. She held out her hand. Then, yes. I placed the ring on her finger. Maya sat beside me instead of rushing forward. For 1 second, she simply looked at the ring. Then she pulled the gray blanket over both of us and leaned into my arms. Comfort still isn't the problem, she whispered. What is? Nothing tonight. We married the following spring in the courtyard behind our building. My brother served as best man and arrived without a canoe. Maya's sister stood beside her. Julia's photograph rested on a small table near the ceremony, not as a symbol of tragedy, but as evidence that one person's courage can continue shaping choices after she is gone. During our vows, Maya promised not to confuse privacy with disappearing. I promised not to confuse concern with access. We both promised that no key, lease, shared room, or legal document would replace the daily act of asking. Marriage did not remove fear. Evan's name occasionally appeared in legal notices, and Maya still checked unfamiliar cars outside. Lauren visited Denver for a conference 1 year later, and seeing her reopened grief, I believed had ended. Maya did not demand reassurance. She asked whether I wanted company when I met Lauren to exchange old documents. I said no, then changed my answer after recognizing independence was becoming avoidance. Maya waited at a cafe nearby without joining the meeting. That balance, available without controlling, became the quiet center of our marriage. Years later, we replaced the old sofa. Maya resisted until one spring broke and nearly injured my back. Before the delivery company carried it away, She removed the gray blanket and found a small scratch beneath the cushion where the original bedroom key had fallen during that first night. We should keep this part, she said. A broken sofa? The wood. Why? Because this is where I learned losing a key did not mean losing control of my life. I cut a small piece from the hidden frame and sanded it smooth. Maya kept it in the brass key drawer of Julia's desk. On winter nights, when snow covered the street and the apartment became quiet, we sometimes returned to the story of how we began. People expected us to say the romance started when she slept on my sofa. It did not. Attraction existed that night, but love required everything afterward. The anger she allowed me to feel, the boundaries I learned not to treat as rejection, the door she chose to open, and the room I stopped trying to design alone. My new roommate lost her key and could not get into her room, so she ended up sleeping on my sofa. I thought the lost key was the problem. In truth, the larger problem was that both of us had learned to protect ourselves by making decisions without giving another person the chance to answer. She hid danger because she feared losing shelter. I hid emotion because I feared losing control. The sofa gave us one night of closeness. Trust came later, each time we asked instead of assuming, spoke instead of preparing to leave, and remained without treating staying as ownership. If this story reminded you that home is not created by a lock, a lease, or even love alone, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes the most important key is not the one that opens a bedroom door. It is the trust that allows two people to enter each other's lives without taking away the right to leave.